Thank you very much, Natalia. So welcome, colleagues. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. I am Jose Resk. I'm Senior Financial Management Specialist in charge of accounting education components here in the Center for Financial and Sustainability Reporting Reform. Today's workshop on the fundamental role of the international education standards issued by the International Federation of Accountants in capacity building of accountants and auditors is hosted by the WorldBank Center CFRR in cooperation with the Audit Public Oversight Body of Ukraine, the International Federation of Accountants, and the Auditors Chamber of Ukraine. The workshop aims to highlight the critical importance of the international education standards, IES, set by IFAC for sustainable and continuous education and capacity building of accountants and auditors at all stages of their professional development. Our focus today will be on how these standards contribute to developing robust education programs at the university level and their implementation by professional accountancy organizations, PAOs, for continuing professional development, CPD. We will explore successful initiatives, challenges, and best practices in fostering consistent and continuous accounting education, drawing on examples such as the Bucharest University of Economic Studies and the Auditors Chamber of Ukraine. The IES are vital because they define global learning outcomes for professional accountants. They serve the public interest and they promote international consistency in the accounting profession. We believe that strong collaboration between the PAOs and the universities is essential for a smoother transition for graduates, building trust and aligning the expectations and the qualifications. The CFRR has continuously supported education and capacity building initiatives with its regional programs and this workshop is supported within the EA Assure program, enhancing auditing and accounting and sustainability reporting. This commitment underscores the importance of developing a relevant, trusted, and future-ready accounting professional through the effective implementation of international education standards. Thank you very much for joining us as we discuss how to build a relevant, trusted, and future-ready accounting profession in Ukraine. I wish you all have fruitful discussions today. Thank you very much. Back to Natalia.
Thank you very much, Jose. I will switch to Ukrainian. I think it will be easier for participants, because most of participants are Ukrainian speaking.
Let me switch to Ukrainian, and I'd like to introduce our next participant, our next speaker, for the word of greetings, and that would be Oleg Kantsarov, Audit Public Oversight Body Executive Director. The floor is yours. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Natalia, for your support of many years that CFRR, Center for Financial Reporting Reform, provides to Ukraine, and this high level of cooperation we feel every day. We feel your support and our constructive cooperation. We continue organizing events initiated by Sector Council for the issues of improving audit preparation. The first event was dedicated to the professional standards themselves in the area of audit and accounting. These are at the final stages of in implementation, and it was interesting to participate in this event. You can look at the recording. There are many ideas, and we are preparing the next event. They are supporting our initiative to have an event dedicated to international educational standards issued by IFAC that have been supporting this work, and they have joined this initiative. We are thankful to colleagues from IFAC and the Audit Chamber for joining this event and supporting this initiative. So I'm thankful to all the speakers that will be here today. Thankful to our colleagues that have found time to join this event. I'd like to point out that we plan another event in the near future to exchange experience with Warsaw School of Economy on educational standards, and more detailed information will be provided about the date and time. But we are preparing this event already, and it will happen in the near future. So thank you very much, and we wish you all fruitful work today. Thank you, Oleg Alexandrovich. Now let's go to the main part. Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Oleg Alexandrovich. The main part would be divided into 4 presentations. As you have seen in the program, we'll have a detailed presentation on international education standards. So we have talked about these standards many times, and these discussions continue. It's important to clarify things, to answer questions, to discuss in more detail. These standards require our attention, and it's important to talk to them, to talk to each other about them. Of course, these standards are for accountants that must follow them, but it's important to talk to wider stakeholders, universities, other educational establishments that ensure the entrance to profession, and then work on continued education. I will introduce Tanya Musumhi from IFAC, and then we'll have Mirela Paunescu from Bucharest University of Economic Studies, and then Tatiana Kamenska from the Chamber of Auditors of Ukraine will present these standards from the standpoint of continuous professional education, professional development in Ukraine. Let me go to the first presentation. Let me share the slides. Can you see the slides? Right. Everything is all right. Good. And you see that the slides are full screen, right? Good. Before we begin, I'd like to encourage all the participants to ask questions. At the end of our session, we'll have time for Q&A. If we are not able to respond to all questions, then we'll analyze them and we'll come back with answers together with materials of this webinar. We'll have the materials and answers to your questions. I think this also will be published by Oleg Alexandrovich at the resources of Public Oversight body. So please write your questions in the chat. If you have questions to a specific speaker, then please identify the speaker. If it's a general question, then just put the question, and then we'll see who would be most competent to respond. So let me remind you of what these standards are, and according to the definition. International educational standards are a set of recommendations developed by the Council of International Standards of Accounting Education, IASB, that are part of IFAC. These standards are directed to increase the quality of accounting education throughout the world by defining main elements of education necessary for professional accountants. These standards are developed so that accountants will have all the necessary professional knowledge and skills and values and ethical norms and attitudes to effectively fulfill their duties. And my slides will be accessible later, and you have the links there. These standards were accepted in 2019. Some standards were amended. There were amendments of the last year, and we at the CFRR have discussed these changes for sustainability. All this information is at our website of CFRR. So all this information in the slides and recording, not always, but sometimes when these were online events, we have recordings and you can study this information at our website. These standards include 8 standards that will include entry requirements to professional accounting education programs. And here we talk about entry to all education programs. So the standard 1 is addressed at universities at the moment where accountant receives qualification. Second standard is about technical competence. Then third is about professional skills. Fourth, professional values, ethics, and attitudes. Standard 5, practical experience. 6, assessment of professional competence. 7, continued professional development or lifelong learning. And then Standard 8, professional competence for engagement partners responsible for audits of financial statements. You have seen this slide many times if you attended CFRR events. It shows a life cycle of professional accountant from the entry into profession all the way through their professional life. First standard is about entry, then requirements to education would be standards 2, 3, 4. Then we have exams, that's standard 6. Then practical experience is standard 5, where at this time professional qualification is achieved. And then we have continued professional development, and then that's standard 7, and then requirements to engagement partners. There is a wide spread opinion that these standards is requirement or are mandatory for professional organizations, and so they forget about the parts that relate to universities and initial education. But as I already said, that first standards are about professional accounting education programs in university. Entry requirements: standard 1, technical competence, professional skills, and professional values. Standards 2 through 4 are also realized in universities. So these standards need to become part of educational programs of universities. Why this is important? Because when curriculum are based on international education standards, then this education will be of full of consistency and will have sufficient competencies and will be internationally recognized. This international foundation ensures quality of accountancy education beginning from university initial level, and this ensures consistency throughout the world. When university programs are based on the standards, then their curricula will follow these international standards. These programs would be trusted more, recognized by professional associations at national and international level. Second aspect, development of competencies. International education standards focus on development of competencies necessary to professional accountants, including technical skills, ethical values, and practical experience, to guarantee that graduates will be prepared to requirements of the profession in the future. Next aspect is global recognition. This is understood very well because when your education program is based on international standards, then they can be recognized by professional organizations at national and international level to ensure career opportunities and mobility for graduates. This is very important at conditions in conditions of globalized economy where accountants can work in various countries, various regions, including long distance work. Why these standards also ensure continued professional education. Continued professional development is very important. And now we are talking more about professional organizations. These standards ensure that accountants learn throughout their life. Lifelong learning is very important for accountants, and international education standards they ensure the importance of CPD, and that way accountants always update their knowledge, their skills, as new standards come out, as changes happen. For example, sustainability standards, introduction of artificial intelligence. Business environment changes very fast, and thus continued professional development helps accountants to update their knowledge and skills to new market requirements. Also, CPD ensures professional competency. And when CPD programs are based on IESs, then these programs ensure professional competency and ensure a high quality services in the by accountants to increase the public trust. Then adaptivity of continued professional development as business practices and legislation develops. This CPD helps accountants to adapt to new challenges and opportunities to increase their value to employers and clients. So going back to two different levels. First level of university, that's initial professional development. But second level is CPD for professional organizations. It's important for universities and professional organizations to work together to ensure that both levels follow the international standards, but also that they develop the programs and curricula together. For university, it's important to learn real skills and competencies necessary for profession. So profession needs to share with universities. But also such cooperation ensures a more effective resource use. Professional organizations and universities can exchange resources, training materials, and experience, which facilitates increase of quality of education provided to students. That also simplifies continuous professional development, because when you have high level of cooperation between universities and professional organizations, then the style of teaching is similar, and it's easier for the students, for the graduates, because they continue learning in the same manner based on the same standards. And when they receive qualification and learn further on, but then also when graduates have passed exams in university that are internationally recognized, then they have these exams accredited to them, and they don't have to study and be assessed all over again, to save time, resources, and to help their development. Also, this ensures contacts, change networking, and professional awareness to increase the chances of employment and career perspectives for the graduates. So foundational elements necessary for reliable development of accountancy profession that would be adaptive and consistent. These elements are the following. First, international education standards. They set principles for education programs of accountancy, and these principles are the same for universities or professional organizations at all levels of training. The requirements are set to these competencies that must be developed in education. So it's not about the subjects and exams as much as about competency development at all levels of professional development. Next important foundational element is cooperation. Professional accountancy organizations are working with national regulatory bodies, universities, and private education providers to implement these standards. And it's important that this cooperation happens in every jurisdiction, as well as internationally. Educational ecosystem is the next foundational element, and that includes comprehensive network of cooperation between educators, researchers, and professional organizations, as well as regulatory bodies, aimed to support high-quality professional education. Next element is continued improvement of these programs. So the programs need to be assessed regularly and reviewed to ensure that they're in compliance with international education standards and are adapted to global needs and challenges. This follows us into the next element, lifelong learning, encouraging accountants to update their skills and experience to adapt to new challenges. So at this time, I conclude my presentation. If you have questions, please write them in the chat, and we will answer at the end. I will gladly pass the floor to our next speaker.
Tanya Musumhi. Yeah, so Tanya, I'm switching to you now. I finalized my presentation, and let me say a couple of words about our next speaker. And Tanya Musumhi is an IFAC regional manager. She's responsible for the Southeast Asia and Central Asia and Eastern European region. In this role, Tanya helps IFAC's member organizations and other professional accountancy organizations adopt and implement international standards and best practices and ensure the relevance and resilience of the accountancy profession. Tanya took part in previous events organized by our Center for Financial Reporting Reform. So thank you very much, Tanya, for agreeing to take part in this event as well. So some of you may know her and remember her from our previous events. And thank you for agreeing to be part of this, for continuous support of our initiative in supporting capacity building in our countries. And over to you, Tanya.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It definitely is a pleasure to be here. Good morning, good afternoon to all of you. So I will just begin. Thank you so much, Natalia, for sharing the screen. And I want to begin really by saying that I really am pleased to join you today on behalf of IFAC and to contribute to this timely and important conversation. So across several jurisdictions, we are seeing tremendous efforts to strengthen accounting education and equip the next generation of professionals. So it's a journey that requires resilience, partnership, and a shared vision. And so my focus today is to share what we've learned regionally about how professional accountancy organizations and universities can work together to successfully implement the international education standards and IESs. And so, as Natalia alluded to in her presentation, implementation is not just a solo effort. It is just a shared responsibility. So she spoke about the IESs in detail. And so I believe that many of us are familiar with what the IESs are. But the question really is talking about why do they matter, right? And they do provide a principle-based approach and of the competence that we expect professional accountants starting from initial education and through the continuous professional development. So this is the point that I want to emphasize, that the IESs are not just about setting standards. They really are about building a shared confidence that no matter where someone studies or qualifies, they are prepared to serve the public interest in a fast changing world. Implementing the IESs is not just the responsibility of PAOs and not just the responsibility of universities. It requires both. And so while the IESs formally apply to PAOs, in many jurisdictions like Ukraine, the structure of the educational system means that PAOs cannot fulfill this responsibility alone. So close collaboration with universities is essential. In other contexts, for example, such as the UK, PAOs have more direct control over qualification pathways. But in countries where academic institutions play a key role, we can stay on the previous slide. In countries where academic institutions play a key role in professional education, alignment between PAOs and universities is really critical for successful implementation. So when we go to our next slide, we're now talking about why the PAO university collaboration matters. So as mentioned, I am a regional manager, and in my role, I serve the Southeast Asia region, Central Asia, and then Eastern Europe. And we have seen repeatedly that where there is close collaboration between PAOs and universities, that is one of the most successful factors in successful IES implementation. So when these two groups are aligned, graduates are better prepared. The transition from education to qualification is smoother. And then the profession earns greater trust from the public and from employers. Where collaboration is weak or inconsistent, that is where we see gaps emerge. So there are gaps between what is taught in the classroom and then what is expected in practice. And so the gaps between qualification requirements and what the students prepare for. So this is why, again, we are going to emphasize, even as IFAC, that collaboration is not optional, it's essential. And it works best when it is built on shared goals, where there is regular communication, and where there is a genuine willingness to listen and to learn from one another. So if we go to our next slide, here's where I just want to introduce some of the best practices in PAO and university collaboration. And what does that look like? So what would that look like in practice? And so there are emerging examples that we have continued to see of how PAOs and universities are working together to implement these IESs more effectively. Now, we understand that every context is different, but there are certain practices that continue to appear where alignment is improving. And these are not theoretical suggestions, but these are reflections based on what some of the institutions are trying to work toward as they come together for these shared goals. Later on in just some of what I will present, I will outline some of these practices. I'll outline about 5 of them, but each of these practices is rooted in the shared responsibility, in that continuous communication, and then also in that willingness to support one another. So let me now go into some of the practices that we have seen within IFAC that have proved to be successful. So if we go to our next slide, one of the practices that we have seen is when there is the creation of a shared platform for dialogue. So one of the most valuable steps that PAOs and universities can take is to create a platform for regular dialogue. So this can take place in the form of a committee or a working group or even an informal network. But the important thing, or the important part, is that it is bringing together academic leaders, representatives from the PAO, and where possible, voices from the employer side. So the purpose of the platform at this point is not only to review technical content, but it is also to share expectations with one another. It is also to address challenges early, and also to really begin to build that trust between the academic and the professional communities. So where this type of structured collaboration exists, this is where we're going to see those coordinated approaches to IES implementation, stronger curriculum alignment, and then there's going to be fewer surprises during accreditation and qualification reviews. So that's one best practice. Another best practice, if we go to the next slide, is really talking about aligning curriculum through collaboration. So universities and PAOs can work together to compare current academic content against the competence areas and the learning outcomes that are set out in the IESs. So this kind of mapping is not a technical exercise. It, again, creates that space, that environment for mutual learning. So, for example, universities may already cover certain areas in depth, but they may use different terminology. And PAOs may provide insights into evolving expectations in professional practice. So this alignment is really important as well. So I believe an example I can provide comes from Georgia, and I believe there, even with the WorldBank Center for Reporting Reform, CFRR, they facilitated curriculum mapping workshops. And these brought together universities and professional bodies together to assess how well academic programs align with the IESs. And so these sessions, they helped clarify expectations and they encouraged ongoing collaboration. So PAOs, as I mentioned, they can offer insights into the expectations, into the evolving expectations in professional practice. So this is, again, a collaborative approach. And when done in the right way, it can help identify strengths, surface any gaps, strengthen confidence on both sides that the curriculum is preparing students to meet international expectations. Another practice, best practice that we have seen, if we go to our next slide, talks about bringing professional practice into the classroom. So this is another way that can be successful, where PAOs and universities work together by integrating professional practice more directly into the classroom experience. So this can take many forms, and perhaps this is already being practiced so where guest lectures from practitioners, from real-world case studies co-developed with firms. This can take place through mentorship activities where students are connected with professionals, who are more developed in their career, that type of mentorship, and that can also be very successful. In one of the portfolio countries that I support, Malaysia, Southeast Asia, the PAO there regularly works with universities to integrate industry speakers into their course modules and the CPD sessions. So that's something that they are already doing, and that is also a good practice and something that we have learned from. In Cambodia, that's also Southeast Asia, another PAO that I support there. They are starting also to explore partnerships with universities to raise awareness about the pathway qualification and to offer more exposure to the professional context. And so you see that PAOs are circling around this issue, seeing what they can do. And then in Armenia, the PAO there has a growing relationship with universities, which includes discussions on jointly preparing students for both national and international examinations. So it is these kinds of efforts that help students connect what they are learning to professional expectations. It also creates this sense of shared responsibility, because preparing future-ready accountants is something that the entire profession has a stake in. I'll go to our next slide, where we talk about supporting faculty development through the PAO university relationship. So this is another meaningful way for PAOs to support IES implementation, is really then beginning to focus in on the academic faculty. University lecturers are responsible for delivering much of the foundational content that future accountants will rely on, but they may not always have access to the latest developments in professional practice, in standards, or in expectations. So one example that I can provide there is in Laos, where the Laos body, the Laos Chamber of Professional Accountants, has worked together with MIA under a mentoring arrangement. So MIA is the body in Malaysia. So they joined together and they are mentor and mentee to one another. And so they, as PAOs, work together to deliver training sessions for both PAO staff and university lecturers, particularly in areas like ethics and public sector accounting. So you see PAOs coming together and then having this relationship where they are focusing on how to shore up a faculty as best as they can. I'll talk about Southeast Asia again. In Vietnam, one of the bodies, together now with the Ministry of Finance, they explored opportunities for co-developing training programs for faculty, ensuring that they are equipped to teach international standards, especially in audit. So those relationships matter, coming together, at least for this joint objective to support faculty as best as can be done. So faculty development can also mean inviting professors to attend CPD sessions. It can also mean co-designing workshops or even providing access to PAO developed learning material. So these efforts, they benefit everyone. Lecturers can feel more confident to teach what is required within the IESs. Students feel better prepared, and the PAO can be assured that university graduates are entering the pipeline with stronger foundations. I will go to, I think this will be my last best practice that I will share. And this is really about building structures for ongoing communication. So with this one, on the next slide, I think it's easy to take it for granted that we're going to have ongoing communication. But I think that there's something to be said about making that concerted effort, right? Because there's an importance of having communication, but then the importance also of maintaining that consistent communication between PAOs and universities. So collaboration then works best when it's not limited to the periodic review or formal approval, but instead it becomes part of that ongoing relationship. So I was recently in Indonesia last month, or about 2 months ago, and that body, the body in Indonesia, regularly convenes and has dialogues with universities to stay connected on issues such as curriculum alignment, market trends, emerging topics such as sustainability, technology. And so they have these consistent dialogues that are already part of their working calendar, so to speak. And so again, why these engagements are helpful is because they create space for early feedback. They create this room, this space for shared understanding and mutual support. And so whether it is through those formal committees, those informal check-ins, joint events, establishing structures for continuing communication really helps ensure that IES implementation is active, not reactive. So I want to just give some closing reflections. as you know, as I end, and I'm sure if there's any clarifications, questions, happy to take those after that. Really, sometimes when I you know, have my conversations with the PAOs, the IES discussion, or even whatever obligation it is that IFAC is requiring them to fulfill, it is about the thought is it's about compliance. But really, I think we want to shy away from this idea that it is about a compliance-based ask, but it is really about building a profession that is relevant, that is trusted, and that is prepared for the future. And this can't happen without strong ongoing collaboration between the PAOs and the universities. So each brings a unique and essential perspective. And so when those perspectives are aligned, the entire systems become stronger. And so the examples that I've shared today, they are not perfect models by any means, but they do show that progress is possible and that momentum will build when we choose to work together. And so IFAC is very, very proud to support this work across the region, and very proud to be part of this workshop today. And we do remain committed to working alongside you as you continue to strengthen accounting education in Ukraine. So I will end there. Thank you very much, Natalia.
Thank you very much, Tanya. Thank you for this great presentation. And again, dear participants, I invite you to post your questions in the chat box, so we will have time to discuss them and to answer your questions at the end of our session. So with this, let me stop sharing. And let me switch to our next honorable speaker, Mirela Paunescu. And while Mirela is sharing her slides, let me say a couple of words about this next speaker. Mirela Paunescu is a member of IPAE of the International Federation of Accountants, and she became member in 2025. She's an associate professor at the Bucharest University of Economic Studies, specializing in accounting, audit, and taxation. Mirela has over than 20 years of academic and professional experience and made significant contributions to the field, both through researches and through the practical engagement. Beyond academia, Mirela is an active member of the body of expert and licensed accountants of Romania. So thank you very much also, Mirela, for joining this event, especially at such a short notice and short discussions. We're happy that you agreed to contribute to it, and looking forward to hear your perspective of the standards implementation in your country. Over to you, Mirela.
Thank you so much, Natalia, and thank everybody before me. Please first assure me that everything is fine and you can see my slides and only my slides.
Yes, we can see everything.
Thank you. Great. So it makes me smile the fact that even if I did not have a chance to share my presentation and to see your presentation before mine, it brings me a smile the fact that somehow I'm going to build on whatever you have presented before me, and I will underline the importance of the international education standards by using the experience of the Bucharest University of Economic Studies. So let me present me. Thank you so much for your short presentation, Natalia. I'm Mirela Paunescu, representing the Faculty of Accounting and Management Information System, which is a faculty belonging to the Bucharest University of Economic Studies. We have more than 70 years of experience in the accounting education, and the university's experience in the economic education, of course. And we have more than 2,700 students, which are currently enrolled in bachelor's, master's, and doctoral programs. What set us apart as an university and as a faculty, more exactly, is the fact that we, over the year, introduced and integrated international education standards and international standards into our academic curricula. So we have more programs which currently are being globally recognized by both professional national and international organizations. To give you only a couple of examples, some of our master programs are being accredited by ACCA. Other master programs or even bachelor programs are recognized both by ACCA and by ICAEW. And also we have our students actually could benefit of a couple of exams which are exempted by CIMA or by Institute of Management Accountants. Our students, based on our knowledge, are the students which could benefit of one of the largest numbers of exemptions when we talk about ACCA, and I will address the issue with ACCA because they are a globally recognized professional accountancy organization. Our students could benefit of 8 exams, exemptions for 8 exams after they graduate, not only from our graduate programs, but also from bachelor's programs. More than that, which is very important for our students, is the fact that after they graduate from our programs, they could also enter faster in the accountancy profession, because our university, my university, has a different memorandum of understanding with our local professional accountancy organizations such as CFRR and CFRR. And let me tell you that over the last years, more and more often, students, when they enroll in a program, they ask what kind of benefits they could have if they intend to pursue a career in the accountancy profession. And they are pleased and they are actually encouraged by the fact that we have so many recognized programs, which motivates them, of course, to enroll in our programs. I do not want you to believe that the journey was an easy one. Basically, it was an effort put by a large team of individuals. I'm talking about the success that our faculty has so many programs which are being accredited. And it took us years and long years in order to increase the number of exams which are accredited by both national and international global accountancy organizations. So in order for my faculty to make sure that our students could benefit of the accreditation I have mentioned, my faculty put aside a team, and the responsibility of the team, among other responsibilities, of course, was to make sure that all the accreditation process was performed exactly as the global accountancy bodies required. So basically, the specialized team was in charge with preparing all the documents, and not only with preparing all the documents, but also the team was in charge to make sure that our curricula was aligned with the international educational standards and with the requirements of the professional accountancy bodies, may they be local or international PAOs. It took us years to increase the number of exams for which our students could have benefited, and it was a process. It was a continuous process. Not only that it was a continuous process, but even now, as we speak, we are always paying attention to what's happening with the international educational standards, and also we are always in touch with the professional organization bodies in order to adapt our curricula, considering all the changes which are reported by our partners, and in order to make sure that whatever we are offering to our students, it is updated. So what helped in the process of accreditation I have mentioned? It was very helpful the fact that part of our professors, not only that they were interested in the globally recognized accreditation, but also part of our professors, they already were member of the local of international professional accountancy organizations. It was easier for them to understand what are the particular requirements of the PAOs, and it was easier for them to adapt the curricula. And by when I talk about the curricula, I'm not only talking about about the subjects or the topics which were taught to our students, but also I'm talking about the whole learning process. So once somebody became a member in a local or international professional organization body, it was easier for that a professor to know what it is expected for somebody to become a graduate, a future graduate of the above named PAO. So that was one of the factors which contributed to the success. Also, it was very helpful the fact that some of the professors working for the Faculty of the Accounting and Management Information Systems some of the professors were deeply involved in the local professional accountancy organizations, which means that they had somehow a dual position, which helped a lot with respect to the communication about which Tanya mentioned, the continuous communication which should have happened between the academia in general or the university and the local professional accountancy organizations. Also, what helped a lot, it was the fact that both local and international PAOs, they made available resources for our faculty in order to help the faculty to become accredited or to make sure that the largest number of exams possible are going to be accredited. I need to mention from that perspective the local professional organization which is called CFRR in Romania. CFRR is the body who represents the accounting profession. And also I need to make a reference to ACCA and to the local office of ACCA, which proved to be very helpful in the accreditation process. Why do I say that? They made sure that we had all the resources we needed in order to accredit our programs, of course, the programs which were possible to be accredited, as I said. So they made available resources in terms of materials which usually ACCA students or students which intend to become accountants recognized by the local PAO used. They made available different information about the exams and different tools our faculty could have used in order to report the success I have mentioned before. There were a lot of challenges about which I'm sure that you are going to encounter if you didn't already have started the process. And let me name only the most important ones. So it was difficult to adapt the local curricula of our university based on the requirements, especially based on the requirements coming from the international PAOs. And I'm talking about the fact that it was somehow difficult to find the right balance between teaching the national aspects to our students as opposed to making the program more international. And it was not the fact that we couldn't have offered to our students information both about the national aspects and the international aspects, for example, local GAAP as opposed to IFRS. The problem was that the curricula became more and more extended. So there were so many topics we felt the need to teach. There were so many subjects which were somehow recommended by our partners, and the process was very difficult because we had to compress everything in the specific period of time we had available in order to squeeze everything in. It was difficult to somehow overcome institutional inertia because, as we know, everybody is already used to his or her own way of teaching students and presenting the information and so on. So when we talk about a change, of course, change is not always very welcome by everybody, and it took a lot of effort in order to convince all the members of the team that they need to change, and not only they need to report that they have changed the way they are teaching students or the subjects they are included in their curricula. And also it was difficult for our professors to adapt the materials they were using with the students in order to make sure that the materials were relevant and the materials were of the highest quality, considering the requirements coming from our partners. In also what it was challenging at some points was the fact that once we have decided that we need to accredit our programs, we had to comply with the requirements and we have to please multiple stakeholders. And as you can imagine, it is difficult to satisfy maybe somebody, but when we talk about a large number of partners, sometimes it was conflicting, and sometimes we had to find the best way in order to address the requirements of all our partners. However, having accredited programs, it was very useful for our students. Why is that? Not only the fact that that our students were exposed to the high quality education, but also it was easier for them to find jobs. It was easier for them to be recognized, considering the full potential by the job market. And also our students, and I encourage you, at least from that perspective, to try the accreditation. Our students were facing different opportunities they were not able to access in the past. What kind of opportunities? Both local and international PAOs made available contests, made available resources, made available different tools such as platforms, such as learning materials and so on, which were free for our students. Not only that, it was easier for our students to try to access the profession because there were different types of exemptions, even in terms of fees, which were necessary in order to enroll in, for example, an ACCA program, or in order to enroll to become a local licensed accountant in Romania. And of course, students highly appreciated such opportunities, which were not available in the past. When we talk about opportunities, it's not only about opportunities for our students, but also a lot of opportunities became available for the academic staff. What kind of opportunities? So the fact that, for example, both local and international PAOs made available resources not only for the students but only for the professors. It was very helpful, not only in order to reach the target to achieve the goal in order to accredit one program, but also it was very useful for professors, which were able to access updated and high quality materials which both local and international PAOs, as I said, were using. Professors, for example, received different types of advantages from local and international PAOs, advantages which allowed them to become members faster, or at least to be certified for parts of subjects they were teaching. So by making available such opportunities for the academic staff and such resources, somehow the local PAOs and the international ones, of course, they tried to make sure that they have they have common interests and they have common values shared with our professors, which were interested, as I said, to pursue also a practical career in becoming an accountant, a professional in the accountancy field. Other types of opportunities, for example, refers to professional development opportunities. There are multiple workshops which are organized by especially our international PAOs, workshops which gives you the opportunity as a professor to share best practices, not only with tutors which are teaching for the international PAOs, but also to share best practices with local and international PAOs and also with your peers. So there were, as I said, plenty of opportunities, plenty of resources made available to the professors as well, to the academia as well, as a result of the programs becoming accredited. So what was a constant in the challenge and in the changing environment I have mentioned? The only topic which was a constant was the fact that the Bucharest University of Economic Studies, and more exactly that the Faculty of Accounting and Management Information System, started to use the international educational standards standards for over 15 years ago. It was much more easier to find common grounds and to find a common language with our partners, national or international partners, when it was about accrediting our programs. Why is that? Because we are already using the IES and we are already applied the requirements, most of the requirements of the IES. Not only that, for our graduates, because we are adapting our curricula and we are using the international educational standards, for our graduates, as I said, it was easier on the on the job market to find a respectful job and to find a good job, even working for multinational companies, or to find jobs even if they were not intending to work in Romania, but to move abroad Romania. What it is interesting, if you ask me, it was the fact that somebody could have spotted a dual effect. What is that? My faculty, as I said, was already using the international educational standards, but once we have began to discuss with the local and international professional accountancy organizations, because the PAOs were already using the international educational standards, it was somehow like we were more than motivated to improve even the adoption or to improve the application of the educational standards, because we are somehow part of a dance, and all of us together were interested in our graduates to be aligned with whatever it was required on the market, and make sure from the faculty point that our graduates have an easier process when they intend to become a licensed accountant, maybe in Romania or outside Romania. So the whole process was beneficial both for the university and also for our students. That being said, and trying to be respectful with the time, thank you so much for your attention, and of course I'm looking forward for your questions. Thank you. Natalia, back to you.
Thank you very much, Mirela. This was very interesting, interactive presentation. Again, colleagues, when you have questions to speakers, please post them in our chat box, and we will take them and respond in the final part of our presentation. And I think if in case we have universities among participants, and I'm sure that we do have universities, then most of your questions will be perhaps directed to Mirela, because Mirela demonstrated a very good example of university accountancy education program, which is based on international education standards, aligned with the standards, and in cooperation with professional accountants organization, they have a very good results in terms of getting exemptions from international training providers, and in general aligning of the program with the best standards. So please ask your questions. And we are moving to the next speaker, but I will switch to Ukrainian. Тетяна Олександрівна, ми переходимо до вас.
Tatiana, now we would like to come to you. Could you please tell us how the Ukrainian Audit Chamber introduces the standards of continuous professional development in uses international standards of education in continuous professional development. Let me switch my presentation on, and I will put it in presentation mode. Can you see? Yes, we can, but you need to extend it. You need to extend it. I thought I did. Did I? We see only edit mode. Let's do it again, because I can see only one slide. That happens. Let's try doing it again. Can you see full screen mode now? We could see the presentation, thank you. Right, we could see the presentation, but not in presentation mode. How about now? Right now, it's much better, thank you. Good. Good afternoon, colleagues. Can you hear me? Can you see my presentation? Yes, we can see you well, and we can see the presentation well, and we can hear you well. Thank you, dear organizers, for this event, and it was very good to see Tanya, our manager. Thank you for your very, very good cooperation. We have asked many questions and made many requests, and we always received a very good response. We received good assistance in our teaching events. So, Tanya, thank you. I'd like to thank also Mirella for the great presentation of your experience. We just recently attended an event in Romania organized by the World Bank, and we have very good experience shared by Romanian Chamber of Auditors. You can hear me, colleagues, right? So I'd like to talk about the role of professional organization in implementing international education standards. I will focus on standard 7, but I will mention other standards as they are implemented in our country. I will tell you that self-governing professional organizations are responsible for implementing all standards in within the jurisdiction of their country, and we need to. Our organization needs to help implement international standards of accounting, audit, and education. So, couple words about IFAC. 185 organization members in 140, more than 140 jurisdictions, millions of professional accountants throughout the world. It's the quality of accounting profession in the world. And I can tell you that in November 2022, Ukraine joined IFAC in this very terrible time. It was in the moment of heavy bombing that we have received the message that we are accepted in IFAC as member, and yes, you can never forget that implementation of international education standards help the accountancy profession to become strong and reliable. And there are many requirements that IFAC sets to members in 7 areas, 7 subject areas, and when we follow these requirements, we have annual self-assessment to make sure that all our requirements are met, and we can fully continue with IFAC membership. So we are preparing the next self-assessment. Through self-assessment, we discover the gaps that we need to fill in. Action plans are to make sure that our organization complies with all of the standards and requirements. International education standards, I will not talk about them much because Natalia had a great presentation on the topic. They're developed by IESB and under auspices of IFAC, and they are mandatory for members of IFAC or to the organization that took obligation to comply with international requirements. So it's important for us to follow these standards to prepare high quality auditors and to be recognized internationally. These standards are focused on principles and learning results that must be maintained in all educational programs for accountants, and that includes entry level requirements, then training in technical competency, professional skills, professional values, ethics, and attitudes, and then practical experience with assessment, and then continued professional development after qualification is attained. I have listed these standards with 3 different colors to show that the first 4 are part of university level training, and here we do not have direct influence, but we work with universities to make sure that the standards are implemented and followed. Then attestation, that's standard 5 and 6, professional experience and assessment, and then standard 7 and 8, CPD and additional knowledge for auditors and engagement partners. Now, I'd like to talk about the stages of application of these standards within professional organizations. First, we need to assess compliance to make sure or to see what standards are already applied and to have the gap analysis, and to have second would be action plan or adaptation plan. This plan needs to be developed to update qualification requirement, professional education programs, and regulations for CPD following the international standards. Then these changes need to be implemented, and then assessment and monitoring must be made to make sure that compliance remains. Now, I'd like to say who is responsible for implementation and compliance. First, standard is related to educational establishments, but also professional organizations, and so we need to increase our cooperation and to set clear entry-level criteria. Then standards 2 through 4 are also focused on universities to develop education programs to comply with required competencies. Then standard 5, that's employers and professional organizations, as well as oversight body. Then we need to organize high-level practice to gain experience and to register results in accepted unified way. Then standard 6, that's professional organization of auditors, attesting commission, and oversight body. And then to develop attestation program, exam and assessment criteria. Then standard 7 and 8 would include professional organization, oversight body, and auditors to account for CPD hours and to set requirements, as well as to provide additional training and assessment to engagement partners. Now I'd like to go to standard 7. to help you understand the responsibilities of the Chamber of Auditors of Ukraine. So continued professional education is done after initial training to develop professional competencies so that professional accountants can fulfill their functions in competent way throughout their professional life. And that includes a constant training in professional knowledge, skills, values, ethics, attitudes, as well as competencies first attained in initial professional training, and then that continue to be perfected according to the standards within professional activity and the fulfillment of professional accountant duties. And that's important that this training and development is done throughout professional life. We need to ensure access of professional accountants to resources of education and development. We also need to install professional monitoring and measurement tools to help professional accountants develop and maintain their professional competencies. What does this standard envision? That continued professional development should include education, practical experience, and training, but also coaching and mentoring, networking, oversight, feedback, and reflection, and as well as self-study and unstructured learning process to make sure that we enrich already existing CPD training in our country, to encourage accountants in the training, but also to provide this training opportunities based on results to be achieved, based on good foundational data, and based on combined approaches so that first, approaches based on results that will require from professional accountants to demonstrate results of their professional education. Then, based on input data, 120 hours that are set in addition to other rules that I will not go in detail to explain right now. But we also can use combined approach, results and input data. We can say that auditor has gone through so many hours of CPD within the year, but also as a result of some work achievements. These approaches are applied in our country, and we have other measurements of CPD, like publications or writing manuals, and these can be also accounted as CPD for specific accountant and auditor. So we need to ensure monitoring and ensuring compliance. And we have monitoring and compliance mechanisms through submission of proof of CPD. And just before the 1st of July, we all have gone through this process. I like to talk about Ukraine, but also I'd like to refer to experience of other countries. Here is the link to experience of various countries of the world. Of course, IFAC has many other examples, but I looked at European examples. So you can look at these countries. Many European countries have accepted international education standards fully. Some countries have not done it fully yet. You can see at the table, but you can also see the experience of those countries that have fully applied these standards. Of course, um, 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 in many countries, these applications, standards 1 through 5, are applied mainly in individual manner. Standard 6 are same in essence and follow directives of EU. Standard 7 and 8 have peculiarities um, uh, when we talk about the forms, methods, and organization of CPD. But local organizations of accountants and auditors um, ensure this CPD, and only in few countries you can get this training in private companies, but not more than 10 to 20% of mandatory hours. And that would be example of Austria and Poland. For example, Poland accredits these providers of CPD training for Polish auditors. In some countries, in addition to mandatory 20 hours, you get 8 hours of specialized training for um, um, PIEs. Romania, for example. It's very interesting to look at various experiences and to see how this is achieved by the countries that have been implementing these international education standards for a longer time than we did in our country. Talking about Ukraine now. IFAC, according to IFAC assessment, international education standards are partially accepted in our country. And talking about positive moments, that our law on um, audit, on financial reporting and auditing activity, is amended to fulfill the requirements of a European directive, and our exams are set for initial training, and attestation is done by Commission on Attesting. Everything is organized by Quality Control Inspection and Professional Accounting Organization and Audit Chamber of Ukraine participates in this commission through their representatives, and they too participate in CPD by organizing these courses.
What are the shortcomings that we have and what needs to be improved? Something that International Federation of Accountants said. This is that universities single-handedly approve their curricula, which is not always in line with current requirements in the sector and in line with professional competencies. Curriculum of the universities and the programs are recommended to increase the number of subjects about the professional ethics and financial accounting. So also requirements to professional development could be improved to be in line with standard IES 7 and 8 and focus more on competences. And absence of the long life professional development for the accountants in Ukraine is a challenge. So in terms of things that have already been done and is being done by the accounting chamber for us to comply with international educational standards. So standards 1 to 5, the strategy of the Auditing Chamber of Ukraine until 2028 envisages deepening the work with professional education institutions in training qualified personnel. The greenish is what we already have in our country, and the bluish is what needs to be developed and things that still need to be elaborated. And it was my pleasure to hear from Tanya and Marella to say that we do have these things. We have a lot of universities that have accredited the programs of the PAOs, and the Auditing Chamber has carried out several programs with universities. We told them about the program of accreditation of the auditors and how they need to change their programs to in order to motivate the future students so that they could say that their programs is in line with the professional of the in line with the PAO requirements. It means that several subjects after they pass the higher education test will be approved and acknowledged. So we are co-organizers in many conferences, and our members of our council and just auditors are doing lectures for the students in the universities, and they have agreements in place to ensure the in-service training for the to be auditors. On standard 6, through the representatives of the attestation committee, we wanted to enhance the influence and impact. Even now, the accounting chamber already started the accreditation of the auditors qualification tests, evaluation tests, where we engage assistant professors. We want our lectures to be in demand with the faculty. On IES 7, so long life continuous education, the strategy of the audit chamber until 2028 envisages the short-term activities of the continuous training, and we do 2 or 3 of such events always, and the development of this specialized program of in-service training for audit chamber. That is the basis that need to be regularly reconsidered and improved in order to know all the changes that are happening. And permanent update of the e-library. Well, this is possible because of the translations from the International Federation Association. This is where we take this and we update our website by using these materials. We propose to expand the different types of continuous training. So the educational programs have to be fundamental in their character, and they have to be approved by the Accreditation Commission. In some of the where we have some examples how this is done. So we could have, as a form of the in-service training, some self-educational programs where the result could be verified, and use the combined approach of approving this combined development. And during the such processes, what we hear from our auditors is, so we need to pay attention to interactive methods and practical exercises, something the auditors need in their day-to-day work. And regarding IES 8, we already have professional standards of accounting and audit developed, and they're being considered now by the National Agency for Qualification. the Ministry of Finance for developing the standards for the accounting, and the authority in charge of the audit were developing the requirements for the auditors, so the standards themselves speak for themselves. So thereby, I would like to emphasize that in Ukraine, we are using international standards of education. And this year, when we're going to prepare the self-assessment with pleasure, we're going to say that Standard 8 is also being used, maybe not in full, but as we will be preparing them, maybe we will have some of them approved. I would like to thank my colleagues for their attention. That's it on my side. I was trying to be on time, and I think I managed to do it. Thank you. I think you've done a good job in connecting these international educational standards on the international level and the regional approach, and really have got a very good assessment of what's taking place in Ukraine and how this is implemented. Thank you. That's a very good bridge. By the way, Tatiana Alexandra, when you started talking, I just noticed that you were not the only speaker that I didn't introduce, but I think it probably happened in such a way that, well, you don't need to be introduced. So all of these three speakers were written down, but then it naturally went to your presentation because we know you so well. So dear colleagues, I think we can go into discussion. If you have any questions to any of the speakers that you have heard or the presentations that you have seen, you're welcome. Or maybe you were expecting to sing something else and you didn't hear also. You can be honest about it. And so, I mean, in the context of this session, we also have about 10 minutes to share experience and 10 minutes to sum up. I mean, you can put your questions in the chat, or you can ask them by asking the questions by putting on your microphone. We have the questions in the chat. Just a second. Sofia Kafka, Tatiana Alexandrovna. Yeah, there's explanation to. There's an explanation about my presentation, Talia Sakuna. Yes, their standard was also developed by the professional association. Yeah, thank you. That's what I meant. I said that they approved and they are in the agency. So if they're already there, so I'm sorry, maybe I forgot to. Then, if I may, I have a couple of questions.
Тоді, якщо можна, у мене є пару запитань. Colleagues, I will switch to English because I have a couple of questions to our speakers. And let me start with Mirella. From your experience of developing educational programs at university, maybe, and updating those programs, may I ask you, what was used as the basis for development of this education program? Do you have any national education standards that you should refer to when you should base upon when you develop the education program for accountants? Or did you use, or did you base it on the national legal requirements, or I mean, EU legal requirements in the case of Romania, of course? Or maybe did you use any other university sample program or internationally recognized education programs like ECCA, etc.? So being university and having this good experience of development program which is successful and well aligned with PAO and recognized. What would you recommend to university, like a starting point, or like what would you recommend as a basis for development of such a program? Please share your experience with us in this regard as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. So that was challenging because we had to comply with the national legislation, with the national standards. We have plenty of regulators, each of them coming and checking to make sure that we stay with the standards. And on top of that, we had to add everything that it was required from our local PAOs and the international PAOs. So we started by comparing actually our syllabus, our curricula, with the one which was imposed by different PAOs. And we built on whatever we had at the moment. It was challenging because we had to somehow balance not only their requirements with the legal ones, but also, for example, the practical aspects. Our students need to, just like you said, and Tanya and Tatiana as well, our students need to see practical examples, need to be exposed with practitioners coming from the real world with real case studies. So we tried to satisfy everybody, considering the time we had available for our students. But the starting point actually was the actual curricula, because as I said, we were following and we were trying to embrace international educational standards. And then starting from that point, we added and we are continuously adding whatever it is required by other PAOs.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mirel. Do you have any national education standard developed by the Ministry of Education that you need to implement when you develop the program? Yeah.
Yes, we have plenty of regulators.
Uh-huh.
They are coming, they are checking, they are monitoring, they are talking to our students, they are talking with us as professors.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, both national and the international PAOs, they were not just satisfied to see the documents, because maybe everybody is considering, okay, I'm going to write on the paper, and if it is written on the paper, then everything is good. It doesn't work like that. So you actually need to change, you actually need to incorporate everything in order to be truly aligned, both with the national standards and with whatever partners you intend to satisfy.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Mirella. I see there is one more question to Mirella in the chat. I will try to translate it.
Also, Natalia, sorry, we have somebody trying to talk to us. I'm not sure if you see the hand. That's why I'm asking.
Yes, Sergey. I'm sorry, I really didn't see the hand up. Yes, Sergey, over to you, please.
May I? Yes. I've written a question to Natalia Konovanko. Probably she hasn't noticed this. She may answer us, but I have another question. I asked Tatiana Alexandrovna how her attitude to the standards of the Ministry of Education. She said, I haven't seen it, but they were approved back in 2018. Then I will better ask Mr. Kachur. During the previous meeting, you have been talking about the professional standards of the accountant, chief accountant, or the auditor, which will shape the requirements to the auditors. As far as I know, under profession 071, these standards were developed by the professionals based on the international education. What is wrong with these standards if we have to bring them in compliance with the professional standards? I'm not aware of this, so I'm very interested, because there was huge money invested in those Ministry of Educational standards. And so you're saying they are not compliant with our requirements, or what? Well, if that's the question to me, thank you. I'm prepared to answer this question. Well, first of all, the professional standards in accounting, these are the first standards that are approved in this area. As you know, before that, there was a short requirement back from the Ministry of Social Policy there was a requirement for accountants and the auditors. So instead of that, because of the changes of legislation, the professional standards arrived. Well, taking into account the professional standards, the educational standards have to be based on them. My personal opinion is very simple. The educational standard doesn't require the bachelor to know the international reporting standards, although the bachelor is the foundation of the accountant profession. And if you compare this with other countries, the bachelor is the person who, when leaving the higher educational institution, should be capable of going to the company which is using the international standards of financial reporting. Thank you. I'm satisfied with your answer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. We have one more hand, and then we will go to question. Yes, Валентина Григорівна, будь ласка.
Hello, I'm very grateful. I didn't want to ask the question, but I received a question in the private why the guests are speaking and the PO is silent. This is why I decided to say a couple of words. I'm very grateful to Natalia. You have been raising the question of education several times, and there's probably 10 years that we have been talking about this. And when Tatiana was talking about dynamics, I can tell you that Federation is the only member of MFB, National Accounting Association has done a lot of things, because we were translating the international educational standards of IFAC. We were bringing together the audience and we were explaining them, and we have seen huge resistance. What kind of standards are you talking about? They said, we have their own standards. Why do we need your standards? And I think even the regulator is talking about this. So this is the dynamic that there is this dynamic, and it's very good. We have very good cooperation now with higher education institutions. The Federation these days is not just participating when the educational programs are being designed. So I don't want to talk much, but I want to mention the fourth IES standard. When the Code of Ethics was translated, when we adopted this as our own code, but we were trying to communicate that the Code of Ethics of the professional accountant has to be learned as these people will enter their profession. And I was very pleased that there was an online course. I don't know if I don't know whether there is this in Europe when the PAOs design it on their own initiative, and they published on the Prometheus platform, and up to 10,000 who participated in testing the Code of Ethics of the professional accountant. It was great when the teachers and students received these certificates. And it is my pleasure that we have updated this course. We've put it on a completely different platform, and I can see that the representatives of the universities are here as well. So please join us in this. Today, the ethics of the professional accountant is based on the international codes, and it is located on the platform. This is a very powerful resource. Not everyone passes this. Sometimes people stumble because they can't cope with the topic, and usually we propose two approaches. So we wanted people to feel that they have to consult with the code and look at the topics. They have video, they have some outlines and I think Mirella is also with us still, and I would like to thank her and all members of the professional organization of Romania that we have been cooperating with for a long time, and you will always be the former President Toma Marin will always be in our memory. He was collecting not just the experience of his own country and sharing it with us, but he was just kept saying that you can come and deal with these questions free of charge. And he was bringing together all the representatives from around Europe. We have found a lot of friends there from the PAOs, not only European PAOs. So very grateful to them, very grateful to this PAO. But Romania is an example for us. In Romania, there's one PAO, it is prescribed by law, and it introduces all the standards of education that we've been talking about, that Natalia and Tatiana referred to, and this is done by the PAO. Whether this will ever be done in Ukraine, I don't think this will happen, but still, thank you, Valentina Rihorovna. Thank you.
Let us switch to the question which was asked to Mirella by Svetlana Zubilevich. The question was, how have the university's efforts affected the dynamics of admission to the accounting profession, and how many graduates become auditors? Of course, I'm sure that you don't have numbers just to tell them to us right now, but just tentatively, do you think after let me just, Svetlana, I hope you would excuse my rephrasing your question, but I think the idea of this question was to understand whether improvement of the program helped to or become the entering the profession easier, whether the number of new auditors increased. Yeah, of course, you don't know the exact numbers, I'm sure, yeah, just by heart, or maybe you know by some miracle, I don't know. Yeah, but still the idea was to understand when the quality of the education program increased and you become recognized by the professional accountancy organizations. Did it help? Yeah, and did you see actual results, like the more students became auditors, it became easier for students to be qualified accountants, etc. So I think the idea of the question was this one. And then we have one more question from Mikola after Mirella will respond, and then we will have conclusion remarks because we only have 6 minutes left. Thank you very much. Mirella, over to you.
Natalia, thank you so much, and thank the person who asked the question. I'm not quite sure who was the initial author. So let me frame the question differently, because I totally understand the question. There is a problem on an international level with the number of members which are joining the accountancy profession. Also, as a member in the International Panel of Accountancy Education, I can assure you that all the members, all the PAOs actually, they are facing the same problem. So in Romania, both my university and the local PAOs, they are making a lot of efforts in order to increase the numbers of members to join the local PAOs in accountancy. I do not know by heart the numbers of new members. However, I can tell you that in Romania, we have two professional accountancy organizations. We have the Chamber of Auditors, which was mentioned before, and also we have the body of licensed accountants. There are two different PAOs. All the members have different responsibilities. If the question is about the new auditors, then a couple of hundreds of auditors are joining the profession yearly. In terms of new accountants, licensed accountants, the number is larger. Actually, the body of professional is larger in Romania, and I can tell you that almost 1,000 of members usually are joining the profession. But of course, I do not have the exact number. So it's a joint effort. We are trying to increase the members, just like the university who is trying to increase the students. What I can assure you is that a lot of students are joining the programs, especially master programs, in order to have an easier access to becoming a professional accountant or a professional auditor.
Thank you so much, Mira. Very helpful.
Yeah, just 1 minute, Mikola Ivanovic, not more. Hello, dear colleagues. I apologize. I'll ask this question without the camera because I'm on the move right now. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for a very interesting information and for the useful event that brings together our community, starting from the education up to the professional organizations and the final stage of this professional training. We do have the need of bringing together these procedures at different stages. Just as one of the developers and the head of the I would like to reflect on regarding the question of the standards of education. The standards of education were first being developed in 2016. I think they were the first at that time in Europe. We presented them in the WorldBank project as one of the first initiatives. And I would like to say that because I'm the member of the sector council on professional standards, that they completely cover all the competencies that we have in the professional standards. And the approach is different. There are requirements to the educational standards and there were requirements to professional standards. And I know the developers who were practically drafting these standards and who were participating in the design of the professional standards. And I can say that the foundation of the professional standards were the standards that we discussed, and they were educational standards. The fact that that IFRS was not included as a competence for the bachelors was that the reason for that was that when accounting in the banks was done based on the international standards, at that time only 5% of companies who were using IFRS in Ukraine. And Valentina Grigorevna mentioned this, how big the resistance was against this. And I can tell you that we're beginning to work with a new version of the professional standards, and we will regulate this question, and it will be included, and we will have these standards reflected for the bachelors as well. I wanted to ask all colleagues and say that we want to have this kind of feedback from you regarding the standards. What is missing, but we can't change their structure, so we can't increase it to the unlimited number of competences. So the competences, if you take all the standards of education, it's the biggest. We couldn't have reduced this to the number that we have recommended. We have seen there's more of them, and it was the maximum that we could.
Of course, as we apply these standards, as we follow the requirements of international standards, we helped many educational institutions in getting accreditation from ICCA on 9 disciplines, and that shows that it's possible working as we work together between professional community and educational establishments. Of course, the number of hours could vary, but competencies are set, and modern accounting education needs to have all these professional blocks necessary for development of professional accountants. So if you have suggestions on how to improve our curricula, please write to our commission. Can write to me personally, because we want to constantly improve our standards. Svetlana Spidevich has been our representative, and we have taken new standards of education with the newest update. Even before these updates were approved, we already considered them in our work. And so taking modern standards is very important. I invite all of you to constructive work so that from the level of university and all the way through, we need to prepare high level accountants. And these cover very important tasks, and it's very hard to include all these competencies in 240 credits over 4 years, as would be required from future accountants. So we are ready to ensure this cooperation, and I will tell you that at this time, the standards ensure development of profession. We are working together with Ministry of Education. We introduce peculiarities of military situation, our state of war situation, of course, ethics and others. Other issues are included in the recommendation that will be approved this year. Thank you. Mikola Ivanovic, we forgive you again for not speaking within 1 minute. Thank you. Our time has run out. If you have more questions to our speakers, our participants, please write to them, and we'll send you the response, and we'll publish our response. Oleg Alexandrovich, you have been organizer of a series of these events. This is the second event in such series, so we are thankful for your cooperation. Thank you for inviting all the speakers. We need to develop these topics. They're very important. And CFRR supports development of the profession. As Valentina Grigorievna said, we have been discussing this topic for more than 10 years, and we'll be happy to support this work in the future through, yeah, sure, supported through Austrian Finance Ministry and Austrian Development Agency and Swiss Organization for Development Support. So, Oleg Alexandrovich, would you please conclude our session and maybe announce our future events, future actions? Thank you. So, your final remarks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for organizing such great event. These events are very consistent, and we would like the colleagues that have been involved in the process before and who are willing to help develop our profession in general and the methodology of education in particular to come to future events to discuss international standards of education and international standards of accounting and reporting. We need to implement these standards, but not standards as such. We need to raise high-level professionals. Many people say that we lack professional auditors. We lack, of course, professional accountants, but it's hard to measure the lack of personnel in accountancy, but we see how critical is the shortage of auditors. Of course, we have problems related to the war, but we also need to understand that our auditors move out of profession for various reasons, and we have not prepared the new generation, not to the numbers we require. So we need to open ways for young people to join this profession, to make it attractive to young specialists. And we need to make sure that their training is extended only as much as necessary to train. It should not be decades or many years. Young people need to invest, but also to receive dividends on their investment in the first years of their profession, not just when they become a fully accredited auditor. So we need to use these standards and requirements to facilitate entry into profession and then training within profession. So we'll need to discuss CPD. We need two more topics, at least. I think that this will be done in the fall. First topic would be requirements of employers to their new professionals to make sure that our market is developed effectively. We also need to discuss the draft of education standard that would be approved by the Ministry of Education. And we need to talk about CPD overall. How we can build up new professionals where their initial training and their CPD would be one smooth road, so that our young professionals could start working as soon as possible. So I invite you to the upcoming events. We will inform you as the dates are set. We thank all the speakers for very valuable information you provided. Of course, your information has been very interesting, but also very timely. It's not just information, it's continued growth of awareness. We talked about accountancy standards, now we talk about education standards. And we have regulators and professionals gathered here. So we are very thankful to CFRR for this support. Thank you for supporting this idea, but also for organizing this great event. Thank all the speakers for great presentations, but all this needs to go into better development of our profession. We all have our goals, but they need to work together for our joint benefits. Thank you very much, and until we see you again. Thank you. All the best. Thank you, and goodbye.